The world watches in horror. The images of destruction and despair flood our screens, leaving us with a sense of helplessness and sorrow. Gaza, a land scarred by conflict, faces a new wave of destruction. The buildings that once stood tall are now reduced to rubble, and the streets that were once bustling with life are now eerily silent. But amidst the human tragedy, another crisis unfolds. It's a crisis that doesn't make the headlines, yet its impact is profound and far-reaching. One hidden from immediate view, this is the environmental devastation that accompanies the human suffering. The land, air and water are all bearing the brunt of this relentless conflict. The conflict's impact on the environment is severe. The natural landscape is being altered in ways that may take decades, if not centuries, to heal. The carbon emissions from this war are staggering. They demand our attention. The fires, explosions and destruction release vast amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The relentless bombardment, the destruction of buildings and the ensuing fires all contribute to a massive release of greenhouse gases. These emissions exacerbate the global climate crisis, adding another layer of urgency to an already dire situation. We are polluting the very air we breathe. The smoke and debris from the destruction settle into the atmosphere, creating a toxic environment that affects not just the immediate area, but the entire region. It's a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our world. The environmental damage in Gaza is not an isolated incident. It has ripple effects that can be felt across the globe. What happens in Gaza does not stay in Gaza. It impacts us all. The air we share, the climate we depend on, and the planet we call home are all affected by the actions taken in this small strip of land. We must recognize the broader implications of this conflict and work towards a solution that addresses both the human and environmental toll.
Modern warfare is a fossil fuel-intensive affair. Tanks, jets, and warships guzzle fuel, leaving a trail of carbon emissions in their wake. Every explosion, every missile launched, releases a cocktail of pollutants into the atmosphere. This conflict is no different. The roar of fighter jets might be the soundtrack of this conflict, but it's the silent rise in global temperatures that should concern us all. The use of heavy weaponry and explosives releases massive amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. This exacerbates the already dire climate crisis.
The air in Gaza is thick with smoke and dust. The remnants of destroyed buildings and unexploded ordnance litter the ground. The environmental damage is not just a byproduct of war, it's a weapon in itself. The bombing of power plants cripples Gaza's already fragile infrastructure. It forces people to rely on generators. These generators spew out even more harmful emissions, creating a vicious cycle of pollution and destruction. The health consequences, especially for children and the elderly, are dire.
Putting an exact figure on the carbon footprint of war is difficult, but even conservative estimates are alarming. Research suggests that military activities contribute significantly to global greenhouse gas emissions. The bombing raids, the ground offensives, the movement of troops and equipment all contribute to a massive carbon footprint. We must find ways to hold those responsible accountable for the environmental consequences of their actions. The planet cannot afford this level of destruction.
Section 5, Gaza's emissions versus climate-vulnerable nations. The irony is heartbreaking. Gaza, a tiny strip of land, is now a major emitter of greenhouse gases. Its emissions, though small in absolute terms, are significant when compared to its size and the annual carbon footprint of entire nations. These are often countries that have contributed the least to climate change, yet they are the ones bearing the brunt of its impacts. This conflict underscores the deep inequalities at the heart of the climate crisis.
Section 6, David and Goliath, the emission asymmetry. The asymmetry in emissions between the warring parties is stark. On one hand, you have a technologically advanced military with a large carbon footprint. On the other, a civilian population struggling for survival. This disparity highlights the unequal burden of responsibility. Those with the greatest capacity to wage war are often the ones least affected by its consequences. This is a matter of climate justice. We must demand accountability from those who fuel conflict and pollute our planet.
Section 7, Beyond CO2, the silent killers in the rubble. The environmental damage extends beyond carbon emissions. The conflict releases a toxic cocktail of pollutants into the environment. Heavy metals, chemicals from explosives, and asbestos from destroyed buildings contaminate the air, water, and soil. This toxic legacy will continue to affect the health and well-being of the people in Gaza for generations to come. The long-term impact on the environment is difficult to comprehend. It's a silent killer lurking in the rubble, poisoning the future.
Section 8. A call for accountability making war green. The international community must recognize the environmental cost of war. We need to develop mechanisms to hold parties accountable for their environmental footprint during conflicts. Some argue that focusing on the environmental impact of war detracts from the human cost, but the two are inseparable. We cannot address one without the other. We must strive for peace. It's the only way to protect both people and the planet.
Section 9. Climate justice, a distant dream in Gaza. For the people of Gaza, climate justice feels like a distant dream. The ongoing conflict has left the region in ruins, with its people struggling to survive amidst the devastation. The harsh realities of war overshadow the urgent need for environmental action. They are trapped in a cycle of violence and environmental degradation. The war has not only taken lives but also ravaged the land, leaving it barren and polluted. The air is thick with the remnants of conflict, and the soil is tainted with the scars of battle. Their voices often go unheard on the global stage. The cries for help from Gaza's residents are drowned out by the noise of geopolitical interests and international politics. Their pleas for a better future are met with silence as the world turns a blind eye to their suffering. We must amplify their calls for peace and justice. It is our responsibility to ensure that their stories are told and their needs are addressed. By raising awareness and advocating for their rights, we can help bring about the change they so desperately need. The international community must do more to support the people of Gaza. Humanitarian aid is crucial, but it is not enough. We need to provide long-term solutions that address both the immediate and underlying issues. This includes not only food and medical supplies, but also educational and economic opportunities. We need to invest in rebuilding their infrastructure, creating a greener and more sustainable future. This means repairing roads, schools, and hospitals, as well as implementing renewable energy projects and sustainable agricultural practices. By doing so, we can help restore hope and stability to the region. We must break the cycle of violence and create a world where peace and environmental sustainability go hand in hand. This requires a collective effort from governments, organizations, and individuals. Together, we can build a future where the people of Gaza can live in harmony with their environment, free from the shadows of war.
Section 10. A time to act, our shared responsibility. In today's interconnected world, the actions we take or fail to take have far-reaching consequences. The situation in Gaza is a stark reminder of our interconnectedness. The struggles faced by people in one part of the world can ripple out and affect us all, no matter where we live. The environmental and human costs of conflict are not someone else's problem. They are our problems. When we see the devastation caused by war, it is a call to action for each of us. We all have a role to play in building a more peaceful and sustainable future. This means not only addressing the immediate needs of those affected by conflict, but also working towards long-term solutions that prevent such crises from occurring in the first place. We must demand accountability from our leaders. It is essential that we hold those in power responsible for their actions and decisions. By doing so, we can ensure that they prioritize peace and sustainability over conflict and destruction. We must support organizations working on the ground to provide aid and promote peace. These organizations are often the first responders in times of crisis, offering essential services and support to those in need. And we must never lose sight of our shared humanity. Regardless of our differences, we are all part of the same global community. By embracing our common humanity, we can work together to overcome the challenges we face. The future of our planet depends on it. Environmental degradation and climate change are issues that affect us all. By taking action now, we can create a healthier, more sustainable world for future generations. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content on the interconnectedness of our world and the challenges we face together. Together, we can make a difference. Every action counts and every voice matters. Let's work towards a brighter, more peaceful future for all.